Hello, my name is Caden, and today we're going to be doing the valve slash rocker cover, or rocker arm gaskets. The cover gaskets, these right here, if you don't know what they are, there's one on each bank. And I'm going to walk you through basically how to do that on this 3800 engine. This is a 1990 Pontiac Bonneville. However, this exact process will only apply to the Vin C engines, which were out in, I believe, 89 to 91 in this style 3800. In the older ones, you'd have the ignition system right up there instead of down here, and a couple other things moved around. So I'm going to show you a couple steps on how to get to this easily. And first thing we're going to do, we'll remove the spark plug wires on each side. Relatively simple. We'll pop this beauty cover off, real easy, give us a little more room. I'm probably going to remove this engine bracket down here. There's just two nuts down here that hold it down. I don't know if you can see down there, but there is two nuts that hold this engine bracket down. And I'm going to unbolt the power steering pump as well to kind of move that out of the way, and that's a very easy thing I'll show you how to do. And also the EGR system here, we're going to come and we're going to remove this whole valve here and this whole bracket and this metal pipe going to it. There's a nut here, and it also bolts into the exhaust here. You can't flex it, so you would not be able to get this valve cover off unless you removed it. So I'm going to start by removing some of this stuff, and I'll get back. So after I pulled the spark plug wires off, and you might run into this as well, but as you can see, the usual happened, and the end of the metal is on the end of the spark plug on two of those there, and one there, and then one of them I ripped it out of the boot, and the other one is just, shit, and the other one's stuck on there. So I'm gonna have to replace these spark plug wires too, so it might be a good time to do those as well, so you don't have to think about them for a while. But that's the kind of thing I ran into, so I'm gonna get new spark plug wires while I'm at it, and I'll be back. So I got the spark plug wires removed, and I also removed one of the engine brackets that just, it mounts back there. There's two studs, and it mounts onto that with two nuts. And what I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to remove this engine bracket, same thing, there's just two nuts holding it, and I'm going to remove this one that holds the alternator together. So you'll have to remove this bolt here, and this bolt here, and that way you'll get this wire holder out of the way and get the rest of this out of the way. And it looks like you're also going to want to remove this tube over here when this valve cover eventually does come off. I believe that's your PCV tube, but yeah, so we'll get to that next. Alright, we are back. I've done a little more extra than I anticipated I would. What I did was I removed the alternator just for ease. If you don't know how to do that, then this video might not be for you, because this is a little bit more complicated than that. But there was a bolt here holding that, another one of those, the spark plug wire brackets. So I just removed the alternator to get to it and give myself extra room. And what I also did, there's a little bracket there that holds your vacuum lines there up like that. So I unhooked the two vacuum lines that were, connected to this, and pulled those out of the way, disconnected these plugs, pulled the little PCV, the little hose off of here, off of this end and this end, and I was able to squeeze this underneath the radiator hose here so I could have this, because I couldn't really get this out with ease at all, and I don't want to end up breaking anything. So I'm probably gonna end up leaving it in there unless I can get it out right here, but I may just end up leaving it in there, but I'll work at it a little more. Oh, it might be coming out actually. Looks like I'm getting it to come out actually. And I did, but the rubber is kind of a little messy on this, but I'm gonna clean that off and get that put back in. So now we have our PCV valve removed and we are ready to do our first valve cover. But what I might do is I'm probably gonna take off all the stuff to get ready to do it, so that way I can just do, you know, bang bang, do both at the same time. But I know it seems like a lot, but that's our first valve cover accessible now. Alright, so I got everything removed that we need to remove. The EGR valve, the little tube that goes down into the exhaust. It's real dark down there, but it is down there, I promise. You'll see it in the daylight. But the power steering pump, which is very easy to remove, you have this piece here that like goes basically, you know, like this, and holds that together. One end bolts into that hole, one end bolts into the power steering pump, and there's two of them. There's one at the bottom, but you can stick a ratchet through these holes, which is great because I've worked on vehicles where they don't have the holes and you have to remove the whole pulley. So we have everything to do our remove our valve cover. Not going to remove that bracket because there's a bolt way down there I can't really reach easily. So, and it looks like there's just enough clearance here to where I can put it on straight and take it off straight. Make sure your wiring harness isn't as in the way. I know that seems like it's kind of hard to remove because you'd have to kind of undo like everything here, which I might just do actually. Yeah, so we're ready to pop these valve covers off, and there's 6 bolts on each one. I believe there's, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's 1, 2. And we're gonna pop those off, take the gaskets out, clean the surface, and then put everything back together. Alright, so I removed the 6 bolts on this first one. The valve cover came right off. It should come off pretty easily, but if you have trouble removing it, just lightly tap it with a hammer, preferably a soft hammer like a rubber mallet. You can just tap it and break it loose, and then you'll just want to inspect your you know, your rocker arms and stuff. Nothing's loose or anything. Everything looks like it's in pretty good shape. This engine was running good before I even decided to do this, so there's nothing wrong with the valves or any of that. So the next thing to do would be probably to remove the back one, and then do that one next, and that should be pretty easy. And then there's all your bolts. You got these little rubber ends on them, called I think they're called grommets, and I believe you're supposed to replace these every time you do that. I don't have new ones. I might have to go get some. If I can't get some, I should be okay just to reuse these. Nothing looks ripped or anything. They actually look like they're in pretty good shape. The valve cover gasket didn't even look that bad either, but I believe it still does seep, and I have no idea when it's been changed before. This car has almost 310,000 miles, so it's probably about time to do them. It doesn't hurt, so I'm going to do that and probably clean off the covers while I'm at it, and I'll get back to you when I make some more progress on this. Alright, so we got both covers pulled and put new gaskets on. Just like that, you'll just press them down in their slot. It's actually really easy, and you just press them down in your slot. I also cleaned them out, not really the inside, just the outside stuff. I actually used like a whole can of brake clean doing that. So yeah, those are the old gaskets. These are the new ones, and now we are on the put everything back together stage, which is going to be fun. But you're just gonna make sure these surfaces are clean here. Apply your gasket or your covers with your gasket attached. This one's gonna be a little difficult in the back, I can tell, because of how I had to wiggle it out before. But as long as the gasket doesn't fall out and you get it set, then you'll be able to screw them down. And I did end up getting some new grommets for all these bolts, so I'm gonna end up pulling all these old ones off and putting these new ones on before I reinstall these bolts. And I'm gonna put these covers back on, and I'll be back. Alright, I've now put the valve covers back on. I've only, with the new grommets, I've only done them finger tight so far. The last thing we have to do is tighten them down to the right torque settings. Of course, I have a torque wrench, but it does not go to a low enough setting that these need to be torqued at. And these need to be torqued at 88 inch-pounds, which is just barely over 6 foot-pounds. So I'm not even going to use a ratchet to tighten it. What I am going to use is one of these nut drivers here, just with the socket on it, because that's very, very low torque. So you do not need to tighten these down very much at all. And so I'm going to tighten them down, and I'm probably going to start in the middle and work my way towards the outer edge, just because there's more bolts in the middle than there are in the edge. So I'm going to start in the middle and do a crisscross, and I'm going to do that on both sides, and then I'm going to start putting everything back together. I probably won't show most of that. This was mostly just to cover how to do the valve cover gaskets and what you have to remove to get to it. So I will pause the video and be back when I have a little more progress. Alright, I am back with lots more progress. So what I did is I put the vacuum lines back on, put my got my PCV in there, the brackets that hold the spark plug wires, both engine brackets, the power steering pump, and I put the EGR system back together. So I know it seems like a lot. It's just a lot of small stuff that's really easy to do. So that's what I've put back together so far. So the last thing I have to do is put on my new spark plug wires, put this clip on down at the bottom here, get them wired up, and put the alternator back, because that's gonna need to be gone to give me some room to feed those spark plug wires. And after that, we're gonna be done. Alright, so that is our valve cover job done. So all you got to do is just, run your engine and check for oil leaks. At this point, I am having a different problem right now, so my car won't start at the moment, so I'm pretty sure I got to change the spark plugs out. I already did the wires, but anyway, that's all the steps you really need to do this valve cover. I don't recommend any beginners doing this because it's kind of a lot, but if you are somewhat experienced, it's really not that bad of a job. So anyway, hope this helps out. See you guys later.